Here's the recipe we're doing tonight. This is being based off of the WholesomeDish.com's One Pot Wonder Cajun Chicken Alfredo. Similar dish apparently to Red Lobster. Guarantee you I'll probably not keep it the same. Here's your basic ingredients. Alright, here's what I'm using. So I'm using spaghetti noodles instead of fettuccine. Got my olive oil, my 2 chicken breasts, 20 sachets, and some Old Bay. They call for 6 cloves of garlic. Yeah, I'm using at least 10. Milk. I'm making my own chicken stock from the Better Than Bouillon. And then they said grated Parmesan cheese, but I've got both grated and shredded because, hey, you can never have too much cheese, right? Okay, so hi. This is going to be the first recipe that I decide to record, so hopefully some people out there, Melissa, can actually follow through and see what I do, since I don't typically measure anything that I make. Doing, like I said, the One Pot Wonder Cajun chicken pasta. It's literally just throw everything in a pot basically and it all cooks together. I've done a basic Alfredo that was kind of like this before and it turned out super yummy, and I've actually done that a couple times. So this one's just like the Cajun version, hence gotta represent with my Saints bow. Also today wearing my Maple Street Hot Rod shirt. Thanks guys. But yeah, so let's get started. So let's see, first we're going to add oil to a large pot or a pan. Add the chicken in, well I guess if they wanted to be a one pot. Alright, I'll use a pot. Alright, so pot. It says 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I literally never measure my olive oil. Sorry, I just kind of eyeball it. So, olive oil. Hopefully you can kind of see. Sure, that's 2 tablespoons-ish. Why not? Turn my heat on to medium-high. And we're going to let that sit for a minute and get hot. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and cube up my chicken. If you hear me bumping and yelling at something, it's probably my dog. Alright. So I will tell you, my first step of any kind of meat is I always wash it off in the sink. So I'm going to disappear for a moment and wash this off with some just cool water. Oh, hush. Baba. That's probably just bad. And 2. Alright. And I'm going to wash my hands. Raw chicken. So, let's cube up this chicken. I am very particular about my meat. I don't like a lot of fat on my chicken especially. So you'll kind of notice that I cut mine up a little weird. It's just me. Move. Alright, so pulled my trash can over here handy. And we're going to cube this up. Use my Guy Fieri knife. I love this thing. It's amazing. Super sharp. Guy, I need you to make a whole knife set and I need you to send them to me. Thanks. Alright. Back to what I was doing. Alright, so you'll see that I'm like first kind of go through and like I said, I'm very particular about my meat, especially stuff like chicken. So I go through and I kind of just get rid of the initial stuff that I can see that just grosses me out. There's really no reasoning behind it. I'm just odd. Alright, so start cubing it. Basically, about that big. So try and keep everything about the same, otherwise you'll be cooking chicken different sizes and it will all cook in different amounts of time. You might wind up overcooking some, undercooking others, so just, you know, watch how you're cutting them. That under there. This is the boring part where I'll probably just fast forward through this, because, you know, nobody needs to watch me cut 2 chicken breasts. So, insert music here. So I do love cooking. It's especially been super cathartic with this whole being actually stuck at home. Mind you, I work from home, so nothing's really changed for me. But it was nice to be able to go out whenever, you know, I was so inclined. So my husband has been very spoiled lately. And I have been cooking pretty much every night. I might take like a Friday and Saturday night off and do a frozen pizza, but beyond that, I'm usually cooking. Have any suggestions for recipes that, like, you've tried and hated and would like to maybe see done differently, or if you've got recipe ideas that you're scared to try but would love to see, like, how hard it actually is to do, hit me up. So this is kind of a new thing for me, so I'm sure that videos will get smoother as I do this more, and I'll look pretty next time. I did put my hair up, but was not feeling the makeup today. Sorry, guys. You can see I'm like trimming stuff constantly along the way. Again, it's just me. Don't feel the need to copy every single tiny thing I do. I'm a little crazy when it comes to my meat, so. Alright, so we got 2 breasts all nice and chopped up. I'm going to wash my hands really fast. Yep. Alright, my oil is obviously hot. I'm going to lower the heat on that just a little bit so it stops steaming so bad. Alright, so probably what I'm going to do is I think I'm actually going to put this, because this is saying to add the chicken and the seasoning directly into my pot. I'm not a fan of that. So I'm going to actually season my chicken before. I'll move that from the heat for now. Alright, so I'm going to move all my chicken into a mixing bowl. And then, let's see, don't need my knife anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and put these away. Alright, so, recipe specifically says 2 teaspoons of Cajun seasoning. Yeah, okay. So this is Tony Chachere's. Stuff makes me cough or sneeze or something every time. This is Old Bay. take my jewelry off. Definitely have to edit this video. Alright, so we're going to mix our chicken. So that's seasoning up. I basically want it to look like all the pieces have a good amount of seasoning on them. They don't need to be crazy coated, but bless me. But 2 teaspoons seems a little, not a lot. So, alright. So you can kind of see, hopefully, that it's got like a nice little coating of seasoning all over, but it's nothing crazy. I'm gonna wash my hands again. Alright, we're gonna put my pot back on the heat. Just didn't want it getting crazy. We're gonna throw the chicken in here. Ooh, you know what? Actually, just moving my garlic over here. And I have my amazing little garlic press. I love this tool. Literally the biggest time saver if you need minced garlic. I honestly don't remember where I got this, but the brand is Roselay. Don't know if you can see that right there. But yeah, this huge time saver. Now, if a lot of times I like having my garlic really chunky, but this is specifically saying to mince it. I'm not gonna hand mince things. I'm not that fancy. I cheat. So, use this. Again, they called for 6. I've got 10. I'll probably try it throughout the recipe. You'll see as I start cooking, I kind of start tasting and adding things. I never actually go off of their full recipe. So, thank you to the Wholesome Dish, right? The Wholesome Dish, yeah. Thank you to the Wholesome Dish for the recipe that I'm basing this off of. But, again, I'll be making some changes. So, we're going to dump the chicken. Okay, so we're going to pour the chicken into the pot, and then I'm going to be mincing the garlic as the chicken cooks. We don't want to do the garlic too early because the minced garlic will burn. So you always want to make sure that you put it in like just late enough where it's almost done. Otherwise, you will literally be tasting burnt garlic and it will not taste good anymore. You want the garlic to just start where it smells good. And that's as far as you want to go with it. Okay, so I've switched sides. Pouring my chicken in, you're going to hear a lot of noise. Okay, so you can see my chicken is starting to simmer. Switch hands for my video because I cannot stir with my left hand. So I'm basically just keeping this moving. You don't want everything to sit in the same place. So I'll kind of stir it around every once in a while. Flip pieces over that I see aren't really cooking on one side yet. So yeah, so we're going to let that cook for a little bit, and then when I come back, I'll be adding the minced garlic. Okay, so while my chicken is cooking, I'm actually going to make my chicken broth, because I want to make sure that this is ready to go when that is done. So the recipe called for 1.5 cups of chicken broth, so I have put 12 ounces of water in here, and once this gets boiling, I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoons of my Better Than bouillon. Basically what happens is I bring this to a boil, and then once it comes to a boil, I turn off the heat, add in my Better Than bouillon, stir it around until it basically just blends, and then I'll have chicken broth. My chicken is basically almost cooked all the way through. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn down my heat to like a low medium. And then I'm going to start sticking my garlic in here. I also keep a sharp knife because then I can scrape. Okay, so I'm going to give my chicken and garlic a stir. I'm going to turn up my heat back to like low, medium, somewhere in between. I'm going to let this kind of marinate for a little bit. I've also removed my water for my chicken broth off the heat. I'm going to go ahead and put my 1.5 teaspoons in there and get chicken broth. Okay, so I don't know if you can necessarily see everything I'm doing here, but I'm taking a 1/2 teaspoon at a time. I'm just kind of trying to get it in my water, get it to dissolve. So that's my first half. This is 1 teaspoon and 1.5 teaspoons. All right. So we're going to get the rest of this to dissolve, and then we're going to add this and the milk to our one pot. I'll be back. Now we're going to add my 1.5 cups of broth that I made. Again, you can just buy this from the store if you want. You just use regular old chicken broth. I just happen to have that and not broth on hand, so that's what I'm using. So I poured that into my pot, give it a little stir, and then my 1 cup of milk. You can also use heavy cream. I just happened to order milk this week, so I have milk. But the heavy cream will be thicker and it will be a little bit richer. So typically I like using heavy cream, but I have milk and I'm not going to drink it, so into the pot it goes. And again, just kind of stir, give that a little stir. We're going to go ahead and up the heat to like medium high. Okay, this is to add 8 ounces of pasta. Nobody ever knows what that means. But if you're like me, you have a handy dandy little scale, see? So I'm gonna actually measure my pasta just because I don't really know and I don't want to put too much. If you don't have one of these, get one. It's seriously amazing. Alright, so I've zeroed it out. I'm gonna measure out 8 ounces of my noodles. This recipe originally called for fettuccine. Whatever. Use whatever you want. Flipping pasta everywhere. A little too much there. Alright. I like 8.15 ounces. Good enough. So I said to crack it in half. So I'm going to actually take probably a couple different piles because with my luck, I will wind up getting this all over the place. So, in half and into the bowl. Hot, whatever. Yeah, and I dropped a noodle, and you breaking in half into the pot. Last little batch. Half and in the pot, and then we're gonna again give this just a quick stir. Your noodles are not gonna move right now because they're dry, but you want to try and get as many as you can covered at least, because you're gonna want to make sure that they all boil. All right, so they're all pretty much covered. By the way, I clean up as I go, so you'll notice me disappearing a lot, putting stuff away. Alright, now this also says to cover and boil. I don't think I actually have the right, I have the right size, yay. Alright, so you're going to put a lid on here. Keep an eye on this, seriously, because these things can like overboil really quickly. Boil over? Overboil? Boil over. Whatever. Alright, so you're gonna let this boil. Okay. So we want this to come to a really quick boil. So you can turn the heat up a little bit if you're not noticing it boiling yet. You want to get it up to where it's really boiling. And once you see that it's like going a little crazy, go ahead and turn your heat down to like medium. And then you want to make sure that you stir it at that point also. Put the lid back on. You're going to let it simmer for about 8 to 13 minutes, I think is what the recipe said. But get in there every couple minutes and just kind of stir it around. Make sure that your noodles are getting cooked. All of them are doing their thing, all being happy. And then once this is all done here, we'll come back. Okay, so just to show you, you see how it's looking like it's boiling? Ooh, see all that heat? This is boiling. So I'm gonna give this a stir. You can start seeing that the noodles are becoming a little more on the quote-unquote limp side. We just want to stir this around. Again, make sure all your noodles are covered. And then we're going to turn our heat down to like just below medium. We want this to basically come back now down to a simmer. So we don't want this boiling like crazy. You can adjust the heat as necessary. I'm actually turning it down even a little more. Alright, and then we're going to put the lid back on. And it is 5:46, so we're going to wait about 10 minutes and then, well, I'll wait like 3 or 4 minutes. I'll probably check it here about 5:50. And then I'll check it again probably like 5:55. Okay, so it's been 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes. I'm basically just testing a noodle, see if they're done yet. So, me preferably, I don't like my noodles too soft, but I don't like to feel that crunch right in the middle, especially if it's spaghetti. So I'm going to cover this, I'm going to let it keep simmering. This is basically all on you. So your timing, you try your noodles as you're going. So I try 1 or 2. When it says like 8 to 13 minutes, I'll usually go somewhere in the middle. So that's why I stopped at about 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes. Almost 10. But I want to try and make sure that my noodles don't get overcooked. So I want them to be right there on the ledge, because then I'm still going to add Parmesan cheese, and we'll probably wind up screwing with the seasoning a little bit, because that's what I do. So we're going to let this simmer for probably at least 2 or 3 more minutes. And then we'll come back and add the Parmesan cheese. She says to only add a 1/3 cup. Again, hilarious. I'll be adding a lot more than a 1/3 cup. So, see you in a minute. Okay, so it's been a couple more minutes. I'm going to pull a noodle out because my liquid level is actually getting a little low. So I'm going to see if my noodles are done. If not, I'm going to throw in a little more liquid in here. Actually pretty dang good. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off. I'm just using Kraft grated. She said a 1/3 cup. I'm not really sure what's in here. That much of the bottle. That's how much I'm pouring in here. So yeah, just chunking it all. I'm keeping it on the same burner because I still want things to get a little warm. I want things to still kind of keep cooking, but not anything crazy. So all I'm doing is I'm just stirring all of this in. You can use something besides the little spatula that you've been using from the beginning. I preferably try to not do too many dishes. Although really it's my husband that does the dishes. I just put them away, but he knows this. He gets fed well. Alright, so I'm going through and I'm just kind of breaking up my clumps. Alright, so we're going to give this a little taste because it looks like it's not going to be very flavorful. Could be wrong, but we're going to give this a taste. Make sure that I get at least a little bit of sauce on here. I don't need that many noodles. Just need a few. can definitely taste the garlic. Ooh, yes. All right, we're definitely adding more seasoning. Tony Chachere's. Again, this makes me sneeze, so. We're gonna add a little more of the Old Bay too. So the Old Bay is garlic and herb, by the way. We're just gonna stir that up again. Again, if you've got something else you want to use, if you've got clean tongs would be good, since these are noodles that need to be kind of thrown around together. But this honestly serves its purpose. Alright, make sure all that's nice and evenly distributed everywhere. Tell you one thing that did not taste Cajun at all. I used to have Cajun neighbors. This was not Cajun. This was one pot Alfredo with a little bit of seasoned chicken. Almost there. Just adding a little more Tony Chachere's. This again, go to your palate. However spicy you want it, add a ton. If you don't like it real spicy, you might like the way that it originally said, where you just season the chicken. We can't be friends. Alright. So it's taken on more of kind of like an orangey tone now, which makes me happy, because that makes me think that Tony Chachere's is really getting in there. And yes, I know I'm kind of cheating with Cajun because of Tony Chachere's, but whatever. Yep, much better. Just get another bite just in case. It's got a nice little kick. There's a lot of garlic flavor in here. So if you don't like something super garlicky, do not do 10 cloves like I did, because this is garlicky. I love it. It's amazing. Alright, so if you want, you can play around with seasonings. I don't think it really needs anything else. Probably I would put like some parsley or whatever on top, but I don't have any of that right now. So when I come back, you'll see I plated with a little bit of the shredded Parmesan on top. And then my husband will get to try it, and I know he's excited because I know that he's hungry after a long day. So we'll be back.